I watch anime pretty much every day and I love them. Although I'm not trying to become an animator, I'm always fascinated by the amazing animations and constantly wonder if there's any learnings that can be translated into my watercolor painting. So recently, I bought my first animation art book. Let's try to study from this. So this book is a collection of Yoshimichi Kameda's work. He's the animation director and character designer for Mob Psycho 100. I got this book because I was impressed with the animation quality of Mob Psycho, especially the action scenes. Naturally, only a small portion of this book is colored illustrations. Most of the rest of the book are keyframes drawings done with just lines. The first few pages have color illustrations for Mob Psycho 100, for CD covers or special event posters. I find illustrations done by animators are usually very dynamic, full of motion, and very three-dimensional. I think this could be due to their way of thinking, because they need to think about not only just one frame, but need to construct a whole string of motion in their mind and how the characters move and interact with the whole world they're in. This also reminds me of Mai Yonayama's work. They're very immersive. It's like she knows exactly which frame to freeze as a painting, and they really draw you in. Yoshimichi Kameda is also very creative in composition, like in this one. The composition is simple but creative. So I decided to try paint a watercolor version, and I'm gonna make Mob the center of focus. Dimple is in the background, like a flame. I always like to paint larger because I can move my brushes more freely, use different techniques to create watermarks, and it'll show better. So Dimple in this size is perfect. In many other illustrations, he's in his usual size, which is too small. Mob has a really basic looking face. All the features are drawn with simple lines. But I think what makes Mob Mob is his head shape. So this is something I definitely shouldn't get wrong. I'm going to use ink because I want him to look smooth. When I say smooth, it reminds me of the God version of him. That is smoothness to the max. I want this painting to be for Mob and Dimple. Sorry Reagan, I'm gonna have to leave you out. So at the bottom, I'm using pink and blue color to create some interesting effect. These are the colors used in the anime when Mob uses his power. In preparation for this painting, I rewatched some episodes of season 3. The interaction between Mob and Dimple, especially during their fight, was really touching to me and left me a strong impression. I really like this scene where Dimple is the only one that called out Mob's crappy shirt. Dimple at that moment was so genuine. Considering the length of the video, I can't do too many paintings, otherwise the videos will be hours long. Sometimes I really miss the good old days. Back then when internet was not a thing, we treasure any book that we got. You would read through it over and over again, copy many pictures from it, until you flip through it too many times and the binding starts to become loose and fall apart. Because good materials back then are not easy to come by. Nowadays, all the information is at our fingertips. We have the opposite problem. We have too much information, too many books are available. Not sure about you, I don't even have time to open some of them, not to mention to really sit down and appreciate them and to learn from them. I love books, especially art books, and I love practicing, learning, and improving my art. If you're watching my video, I'm sure you love anime and manga as well. And if you want to improve your art skills or start learning to draw, this is such an effective method to learn fast. So I want to share with you how I do it in these videos. Not only can we learn from technical educational content such as perspective, anatomy, we can also learn from other genres of art to develop our own style to expand our creativity. I think these two types of learning are so closely related and built on top of each other. Oftentimes, I find myself stagnating or I'm digressing. I take out my old paintings and sometimes I was surprised how I was able to do something that I'm no longer doing. By alternating these two types of learnings, I find it easier to get out of stagnation period, expand my visions of what's possible, train my taste in art, get to know myself better, and ultimately put myself on the path of evolving my art style, and not settle in my comfort zone. Here I wanted to put a light pink blush on Dimple's face, but I forgot to leave space. Since watercolor is transparent, the light pink I put on the green background becomes dark and dull. There's no way I can save it unless I put on gouache again, but that would be too solid. I want it to be sitting in the background with Dimple. Recently, it's the cherry season here in Eastern Canada. They're really good, firm and sweet. I really like them. So I turned the two red circles into cherries. Now this turned out to be a funny painting, but I quite like the dimple background. Using ink is definitely the right choice, and I did get the smooth and soft look that I wanted. But the reason I got this animation book is to study the keyframes, so let me get serious and do a more dynamic and powerful one. Yoshimichi Kameda's drawing for keyframes are rough. Although they are just still pictures, they convey a strong sense of motion, especially these powerful fighting scenes. I went to rewatch the anime for this part. These few keyframes only span across 2 seconds of the animation. 2 seconds! But there are so many details that are well thought out and given shape. Starting from the first frame, where Deku's sleeve starts with just a tiny rip, he visualizes the gradual movement of the fabric, ripping, shredding, wraps around, and moves away from Deku's arm, and eventually falls apart into smaller and smaller pieces and fly away. At the same time, Deku's arm has another sequence of motion. This motion doesn't have a big range. He simply moves the arm from the side to behind him. But now that I took a really good look at it, I'm super impressed by the mastery behind this. There must be a tremendous amount of time and hard work being put into the practice to be able to give life to manga characters. Although my paintings are two-dimensional, I still want to be able to convey motions. I want to bring the most beautiful things into this world, and there is so much more room for me to experiment and to improve. It really gives me energy to keep putting hard work into practice. So this really inspires me to think of ways to use fluidity of watercolor to capture the motion and the energy. But since I can only paint one picture, I don't have the advantage of creating the real movements like in an animation sequence. I have to pick a pose and composition that allow me to tell the story in one frame. After a few small tests, I decided to use these 3 frames to come up with this composition. I want Deku's face to take up half of the page because I really want to show his emotion, especially zoom into the lights in his eyes. I also want to have enough space around him to fill in the background, large enough so that I can create some watercolor pattern, describing the energy released from him. I positioned his fingers here at the corner to create a diagonal line, perpendicular to the energy in the background, for a powerful, explosive look. I definitely want to show his hand here because his hands are injured severely, looking red. This shows that he's already fighting hard, which is an important part of the story. You might be wondering why this is my only animation book. The reason is simply that I prefer more complete drawings or paintings. I feel the fully composed works are easier for me to learn and is more relevant to me because I'm passionate about creating beautiful paintings myself and I'm out trying to become an animator. However, I think my thinking might change after going through this book. Yoshimichi Kameda's work also includes so many emotions, like Deku is so angry in this scene. I don't usually do angry looks because I have a weird habit. I tend to make the same expression as the character I'm drawing. So when I'm painting a happy character, I naturally smile a bit. When I'm making a mischievous girl, I usually make a weird face. So for this one, I'm filming on a weeknight. I should be tired after a whole day of work. But by putting down the colors, the patterns, creating the splashes for the explosive look, I went into the zone. Some of the anger from Deku infected me, making me a bit angry that I can't paint better than I already am. This angry energy also drives me to keep going, to improve, to go beyond. I'm really glad that I gave some dedicated time to this book to try to understand the drawings and to read through some of the keyframes. Just by doing this Deku painting, it reminds me how much I love painting freely, creating energy on paper. And I learned the importance of a larger face to show better expression, using a combination of lines and shapes to describe emotion. Although keyframes don't seem as relevant as full illustrations and they're just simple lines, I learned so many small details and techniques to describe motion, and they're useful elements to improve my own paintings. I think I'm going to check out more animation books in the future, and if you have animation books sitting at home as well, I encourage you to do the same practice. You'll be surprised what you can learn from it and adapt it to your own art, whatever medium you're using. And this book also has well-edited small drawings in the first few pages, which I really enjoy. Some of them are really funny. So if you're someone who loves Mob Psycho, One Punch Man, and loves animation, I think you'll really enjoy this book. Alright, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.